Hello and welcome to the Event Marketers Toolbox. I am Chris Dunn. I'm joined by a couple of friends here that I'll introduce in a hot second. I'm with Blue Hive Exhibits, and we're super happy to have Bob Hanson and Nick Salvatoriello with us here. How did I do on that, Nick? Pretty good?
Oh, amazing.
Nailed it. I have spent a little time in Southern Italy, so
it shows.
Awesome. I met these two guys. Actually, I met Bob in a community for B2B marketers called Exit 5. And Bob in turn met Nick, and now we all know each other, and we're doing this whole kind of community thing. We're pulling it together. We got this live show going on. So go out there and find your community, find your people. Here on the Event Marketers Toolbox, we're building a community of like-minded event professionals who are here to share, get the word out. We're really excited about today because we're really taking the first kind of deep dive into virtual events. We haven't really talked about that. So I'm a trade show guy, right? We're all about face-to-face when all we had was virtual events back during the pandemic. Like that was just a scarring moment. But it turns out that I've been thinking about it wrong. I've been thinking about these two things as like adversaries instead of, things that can work together. So anyways, real quick, Bob, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, I'm Bob Hanson, and I guess I go by marketer. I guess if you had to define me, when I was the head of marketing for a startup, my boss said, you're wired for marketing. So along the way, I worked at a couple startups and then in-house. And then along the way, I kind of got into events, and they really worked, got my start in seminars. And then discovered webinars and virtual events along the way. So I've been doing that for my entire career and work for both startups and enterprises now as a fractional marketer. So a couple examples are building out, demand gen and content and events for a startup kind of from scratch. And then 1 day a week working with enterprises. Past clients are Siemens Med and Trend Micro and Fidelity, but basically helping them do what some of the things we're going to talk about today, which is building out sort of their virtual events track to support the rest of their events program.
Nice. Fantastic. All right, Nick, how about you? That's a pretty, he's raised the bar fairly high.
I know. Geez. No, it's been great to meet Bob and you, Chris, through Exit 5, that B2B marketer community. And yeah, I'm Nick. It's great to be here. And for the last 20 years, I've been always very interested in events and gatherings and like broadcast style media and content ever since I was like a DJ and a radio host in college, all the way through to working at HubSpot and being one of the founding members of HubSpot Academy. We did live certifications as well as a lot of like virtual on demand training and a ton of webinars, and really started to fall into the webinar and the event side of sales and marketing for B2B. And like I said, worked at HubSpot, worked at Drift, worked for a number of their channel partners. And always I was running towards those opportunities where if someone needs to host or MC this customer town hall, this group promotion meeting, this better together story that we're doing with this other strategic partner, I'm usually the guy who's able to jump on, let's get everybody rallied to tell a great story, to create a great experience, and to help people communicate effectively in a large like one-to-many medium, which can be quite daunting, and it's a little bit of a different skill set when you're presenting one-to-many from stage, along with all the technical aspects, which I know Bob is very passionate and proficient at, and that's why him and I have really enjoyed sort of like dividing and conquering around talking about those pieces.
Nice. I was once told that I had a great face for radio as well. That's just to throw that out there. So another fun fact about three of us: we're all Boston guys.
How about that?
How about those Red Sox right now, huh? They're on a winning streak, for God's
sake.
Right
on cue. I have my Red Sox mug.
There we go. Get on the bandwagon, get off the bandwagon, get back on the bandwagon.
I'm on the bandwagon. Yeah.
There you go. This looks a lot like 18 when we looked like we sucked, but then we actually won it. So who knows? Yeah, hey, this is a live show. We got Sarah weighing in from Asheville, North Carolina. Hey, Sarah, how you doing? Anybody else who's out there, feel free to not only drop a comment, let us know where you're at, but drop a question in there, as we're going. We're going to be chopping it up. We're going to just be chatting and talking about kind of all these things connected to events. We're actually going to look at it like many of you event marketers do: pre-show, during show, post-show. We figured that actually makes sense based on what most of our audience is doing out there, and figuring out, how do I get our arms around the event as a whole, right? It's not the success certainly doesn't lie in any one of those segments. It's a combination of all three of them, and all three need to be done, well, in order to, get this to play out. So before we get into the meat and potatoes of the conversation per se, let's talk about, or let's just real quick introduce our sponsors. I mentioned I work for Blue Hive. We are a custom exhibit company. We're located not only in the Boston area, but also we have another out west, Las Vegas location. We handle all of our Vegas and West Coast work out there. So we're kind of in the 100-person size range. We're not too big. We're not too small. We like to say, for a lot of brands that are out there, we're bigger than that boutique agency down the street that maybe doesn't have the bandwidth, and we're a lot smaller and more personal than some of the real big guys where you're just a number, right? So that's where we feel like Blue Hive really fits well. We're creative. We're we have great customer service. We deliver on what we say we're going to do. In addition to that, we also work with a great group, an agency called Fist Bump. They're the ones who are actually producing this particular live event, and they turn it into a podcast. So these are folks that I got involved with a couple of years ago. Brandon Lee was the founder. He was great. He became a mentor. I kind of joined that group. He was helping me kind of just up level my LinkedIn game. And then, he really started floating the idea of, like, Chris, this whole idea of doing a show would be great for you guys. You'd be thought leaders in the industry. We produce a ton of really great content, be able to share it with people. So we kind of leaned into it, and grateful for my organization to agree to sign off and say, let's try this for a year. So we're at we're at Exit 5. No, we're at episode 32, I believe it is. And it's going great. I'm having a ton of fun with it. So Nick, from your side, I kind of like the whole, being that, face and ambassador, and hopefully the conversation we're creating our, I got a great face for radio.
That's it.
So we got a lot of great stuff to talk about here. And again, our topic for today, and I'm like the live event guy, right? So I already kind of talked through that. But when I kind of started chatting with Bob a year ago, he was sharing with me the ideas of how virtual and live events can kind of live cohesively and actually help each other. So we're going to hop in here. We're going to start again with kind of pre-show promotion, and I'm going to kick this to Nick first. But
Sure.
Nick, talk a little bit about ways that you've seen kind of working this pre-show angle, I guess, with a lens on the digital side or on the virtual side. How have you seen that play out? Do you have any case studies, any thoughts? And then Bob, feel free to jump in when it makes sense.
Yes. So thanks for that. And for everybody listening, like, what we're talking about here is, when we say pre-show, we mean that there's going to be an in-person event, a big conference, a big trade show. What are you going to do before that? And I think what Bob and I are really passionate about is something that I read about in a book that maybe some of you folks have read. The book's called The Art of Gathering by Priya Parker. Excellent book about how to put together all sorts of high caliber gatherings of all kinds, from dinner parties to ambassadors getting together and stuff like that. She's done it all. But one thing, that a quote of hers that always stuck with me when I think about this aspect of what we can do pre-show, is the event experience starts for your target audience the moment they know that event even exists.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it's the communications that I have done or my clients have done back in the day were just like, come to the event, come to the event, come to the event. We're gonna, our booth is going to be here. Are you going? And you're only targeting the people who are going to go, because why would you target the people who aren't going to go? As if we don't know for a fact that many people who can't make it to that event they're going to be keeping track of the trends and what's happening around the event. They're still interested in that topic, that industry, or whatever. So what I'm saying is, and I know what Bob believes in this as well, is let's capture their interest. Let's go ahead and prime them, if they're going to be at the live show or not, about what we're all about at that show. We probably know what that's going to be. We're working with Blue Hive here, thinking about the theme and what's going to be the branding and what's going to be the big message that we're driving. What's the big CTA that we're going to be putting in front of these people? Why don't we talk about that ahead of time? Whoever is going to be involved with being on the show floor, whoever our subject matter experts are, to be delivering those breakout sessions or those keynote speeches, what have you, they're available before the event too, right? They have a stake in making sure people hear about the fact they're going to be at that in-person event, right? Let's just create content with them, whether it's asynchronous video, or maybe do a live event, a live virtual show like this, and get people fired up, whether they're going to be there or not. So I think that's a big thing that Bob and I agree, bar none, is let's do a pre-show show.
Yeah. Just to kind of add to that, like, I love the thought process, and you're 100% right. Like, there's only a certain amount of people that are going to go to that show, that event, right? Because there's just, the realities of life, and there's only so many, spots in the room, or whatever the case may be. So you have a total addressable market of however many, and we're only going to talk to this many people who can actually make it. But it makes so much more sense, right? We're marketers first, we're event marketers, but we're marketers first. And let's talk to the entire addressable market. And like you said, kind of just this becomes a drip campaign. If you can't make it in person, why not, let's hang out virtually.
And one more bonus, let's go ahead and practice whatever the talk track's going to be, whatever that flow is going to be. That's going to be so critical to pull off with confidence at the live conference. Try that ahead of time.
Yeah, excellent. We got some folks checking in from Boston. We got Sean, we got Lana, Karen from Espo Hub. So we got a lot of good folks in the room here. Feel free to drop those questions in when they come up. Bob, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I think sometimes especially if we're event professionals, we get so busy trying to focus on just the event itself. But I think I don't know what year that is, 1999. But I would say equal value of the event is the marketing that you're able to do around it, right? The fact that when you're there socially, you're promoting the fact that you're there. And then you're able to, I would say for a lot of big events, one of the things that I've done when I'm on the vendor side is, okay, well, let's try and capture the energy around this event, both before, during, and after. But so we're going to tell the market why we're so excited about being there. And we're going to, pump up that energy as well. So 2 specific ways of doing that are relatively easy is you take something that you'll be sharing at the event, like maybe you're launching a new product or there's a new study that's out, just to use those 2 examples, and give a preview of that, whether that's a video, whether that's a live stream, whether that's a webinar. And then I always think, everybody wants to create short form content, but the easiest way to create short form content is to have longer form content like this, and then take the best bits out of it. So that gives you sort of a cadence and a thought that, okay, we're going to promote the event around a full life cycle. And then before the event, we're also going to give ammunition to, let's say, salespeople are trying to invite prospects and customers to interact with you there versus the competition. Because let's face it, typically at a bigger show, all your competitors are there. So you're fighting for attention. So don't make the mistake of just thinking, well, we'll just put up on LinkedIn that we're going to be there and at this booth. Well, that's sort of table stakes. But beyond that, what are all the exciting things that you're doing? And then even are there ways that, let's say there's a keynote at the event, or there's some certain themes that are happening, tie in with those, or mention the fact that for hand-selected folks, or you have limited spots at your dinner or your outing related to the event. So there's all sorts of cool things you can do, and you can be selective. But I think to your point, kind of starting with, okay, how are we going to engage folks before the event, and then carry that to engage them during the event.
I'm glad you brought up sales too in your response, Bob, because I feel like that's often like a target audience in your pre-show marketing and messaging that often gets overlooked, like the sales team. How many times, for those of us who've put on in-person conferences and stuff, sales team is scrambling, oh, sorry, I can't even make it now because I didn't stay in the loop about the logistics and the travel, and now I'm booked. So sometimes sales, they're not helping invite. They don't really know what they're going to do when they get there. They're scrambling. So why not, when you're doing some of these drip campaigns that Bob's been talking about, make sure you point one of those at your reps too. Like, do you have some automated sequences and auto tasks for those reps to go, you've got 10 key accounts that we know are going. What are you going to do to make sure that they're going to come to our booth to book that appointment at the dinner that Bob's talking about? Like, make sure you've got a little miniature campaign and a little drip campaign for the sales reps, and especially have an enablement deck. I know you guys probably do this all the time with your clients, but like, we should do a presentation to the sales team, and we got to pitch them on why they got to bring their best to promote this event, to the live conference, and why they need to be getting on brand, on theme, on message with us and doing their part. They sometimes will be the biggest influencers as whether somebody's going to actually show up. And if we do this right, they'll come to that booth feeling like it's call number 2. it's meeting number 2. They already saw us in the virtual event. They already heard from that rep. That rep's been chatting with them already. Why do we have to wait until the live conference, like Bob said, with the cacophony of competitive messages and stuff like that to break through? Let's get them now with that message, and we can talk about so what are we going to do about that at the booth?
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, Chris, you had a good point that in most of the markets that I've worked in, the majority of your target market is not actually at even like the one big conference of the year. Right. So you can think about how do we in the United States, especially, we have an event driven culture. So leverage that and say, okay, how am I speaking to the folks that aren't able to make it? Right. And then before, during, and after the event. But that's a great strategy of, engaging those folks as well and leveraging that big investment that you make in sort of easy ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, thanks very much. Sarah Hamlin weighing in from Hamlin Creative. Event content is branded content for the entire company. Right.
Amen.
Put a little quotation around that. And we're going to hit this later, and I don't want to spill the beans, but when we think about what we're doing post show or on event, we're going to talk about this, but we're going to create content that you can use post show, and then you can use it again to promote your next show. Right. So there's this circle of life here that exists. And everything that you do as part of this giant investment becomes kind of this, circle of life moment, which is great.
Bob's the master at that. I hope he talks about that later.
Oh my God. What a great talking point. So let's pivot. We're here. We're kind of, we'll put a pin in the pre-show. That all leads up to the event, right? In my world, it's typically a trade show. We do corporate events as well. But the word events is so broad, and just by and large, what I'm seeing, just to take a pause on, not even just, trade show related, but the word events, I think, again, can mean so many things. And what I'm seeing and reading and within my industry is that over the next several years, people are doubling down on this idea because there's a lot of forces pushing on this. There's all the automation that just makes opening up your inbox and looking at your phone just ring off the hook. That's an awful experience. We don't want that. All of the AI generated stuff, which in some cases AI is fantastic. It's wonderful for research and so forth, but lazy salespeople are just pushing out a bunch of junk with it. So we're getting bombarded with all this stuff. We don't know if their people are real. Is this a robot calling me? Is this is this just an automated, outreach that doesn't even have a human flavor to it? So I think the in-person piece is going to be super important. So again, kind of circling back to that theme of like, why do these two things need to be adversaries? Let's use them working together. So as I'm kind of, quote unquote, the trade show guy or the in-person guy, so we're on site, we're helping our clients and ourselves. We actually do a few shows ourselves, create a memorable experience on site. It used to be that, 20 years ago, you could show up with a kick-ass booth and that was your activation. Your booth was the wow factor. Wow, this is great. You got these big lights and all this graphics and moving, imagery and so forth. Those are table stakes now. Like, you have to have a well-designed, well thought out, functional booth. But if you don't create some sort of activation or engagement that speaks to people within that space, then you're probably going to have people just walk on by. Right. So number one, we've just discussed, and there's more things that we can kind of dive into, but on that pre-show promotion, we're giving them not only the information that we're going to be there, but the why, right? Why do you want to show up? Why do you care? And then when you get into that space, our goal is to really kind of work as many senses as possible. Can we do, our obviously sight and sound, but can we do touch? Can we do olfactory, create, baking cookies in the background, or that popcorn smell or something, or some sort of, there's these wonderful aroma, technology pieces that you can add all these things in, because what we do know is that the more senses that are engaged in that space, the more memorable our experience will be. Right. So when that attendee who's going to 50 different exhibits during the day, we want them at the end of the day to remember us above everyone else, right. To be top of mind. But you guys have both kind of seen and experienced using this hybrid scenario, right? So how do we tie virtual into an actual on-site live experience? Kind of, Bob, I'll start with you. I started with Nick before. I'll start with you on
Mhm.
this one. Let's uncover, some examples of things that you've either seen or done, or
Mhm.
executed.
Right. Yeah. It can be fairly simple. But if you use like a medium, like, think of a LinkedIn Live, you do live from the trade show floor. It doesn't have to be a massive video setup. I
Mm,
certainly would, whatever video you're thinking of doing at your next show, I would probably just double that and get
okay.
all sorts of video there. But think about, okay, so if we're live from the trade show floor, again, also communicating with folks, because at night, what are they doing? Or when they're on their phones, they might be
Hmm.
on LinkedIn. So we're
Hmm.
communicating with those folks there. But so you can do kind of a live from the trade show floor. And then you can do those asynchronous videos too.
Mm,
Sort of someone that I used to work with, Jeff Coveney of NAC. He does these great, like every day, he does a recap video of what was the big takeaways from day one.
hmm.
And basically, his company, whatever company he's working for at the time, stands out within their peers, because
Hmm.
both in terms of folks that are there or folks that aren't there, they become the ones to say, well, here's the story that day from the show. So I'd say those are two ways of doing it. And then the other thing is, as I would just repeat, you know, uh, eventually, the merger of radio and TV is sort of YouTube. And so the more video that you can get in all forms, the more that you can use. But it's great to have both either a simple live stream, say, here's something that's happening, and we grabbed somebody who's doing a breakout session that you might not have seen, or if you're not at the show, you didn't see it. Here's what they talked about, or here are the big takeaways from the show in sort of a video format that you share, and recognizing that also you're marketing to folks in their phones, right? While
Right.
they're even maybe, okay, which booth are they in? Oh, they're right over there, but I saw that on my phone, right? So,
Right.
as I used to say with the webinar world, they're like, well, when people are watching live webinars, they have another screen going. I'm like, well, do you want to be on the second screen or the first screen, or do you want your competitors to be? So I think these are all opportunities, and you can have fun with it, right? It can be different for each show, or each company can do it a different way.
Right. Hey, we got a question, Nick, before you jump in, just from Lana. How often would you do these video snippets and live streams? That's a great question, right? So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily trying to do everything and become all things to all people, right? You got to maybe kind of pick and choose so that you can do each piece well, right? If you've hired a team, or if you've got your own video person, on site, they can only do so much.
Mhm. Well, now you're asking the big questions, Lana. So thank you. You know what I mean? Put us on the spot here. That's what a live
How many
show's all about.
times?
Right. Give us the exact formula. No, I know where you're coming from, but I think Bob's onto it, right? The intersection between digital and in person is through the camera. And my best case studies as I was getting started with this type of stuff is anytime you can have a photographer or a videographer with the lights on capturing anything about the
Mhm.
attendees, about themselves, it's like a moth to flame. Anytime you've ever done headshots, there's a line around the corner. Customer
Yep.
stories booked up solid for the entire week. Everybody wants to be captured, profiled in a flattering way, right? So Lana and other people interested, I'd say this is an always on, all day. As much as we can be capturing people, we could have a full schedule of 15-minute. I've seen this and done this 15-minute increments and stuff like that throughout the day. We're going to stack it up, and this is all getting chances to interact with your target audience, right? So under the guise of and I like what Bob is saying about takeaways. I've done that to be sure. You must do that as a minimum. Say here are our takeaways. But what I'd like to do this year with my clients, and what I think you folks should do, is get the attendees to get their takeaways. What was your takeaway on the street?
Yeah.
And get those people featured in the content alongside us. And then also how often a tweak on how often do this is you could actually have a little miniature trade show within your trade show at your booth. You say at 2:00 we're going to be interviewing somebody. Did we have to announce that? Did we have to have it be at 2? No, but there's like stuff going on here at our little corner of the universe. We've got a schedule. There's stuff to see. At 1, we'll be interviewing this person. At 2, we'll be having a trivia thing or some sort of a game or a challenge. And that's another thing. You're just trying to draw attention. Video and cameras bring lights, People are gathering around. The people just tell me, you walk by a place, you see somebody with a microphone in their hand and lights beaming on them, you're stopping and wondering what the heck is going on, period. So to me, that is, let's start there and then just invent stuff as for reasons why you want to constantly be capturing the thought leaders, the target audience, and getting them talk about why they're so smart and why they're attending these different things and why this conference is so important to them. And like Bob said, then you can remix that, atomize that into practically infinity. But the last point I'll make here is I really want to push people is like create moments for those multiple individuals to interact with each other under your auspices at your booth. They're building something, they're solving a puzzle, they're having a trivia challenge, and that's the MC in me wants so badly for you to do that, so I can go, oh my gosh, here we go. Lana is going to now weigh in. Who can write the blog post fastest, or who can solve this equation, or who can match all the blocks, or whatever it might be that's relevant to your brand, or like what the theme is of the event itself. Like get that going, and all we're trying to do is just capture eyeballs. We're trying to have those people have a great time. See that we're capable of producing that unity, that interest, and so on, to get other people to notice it. And even if they don't, we're filming the fact that we were filming, and we're going to show off that we had a big production value thing that we were doing in our event. That's just my 2 cents, Bob. I don't know about you.
I mean, so we've talked about this.
I think, I think the broader point there is you can make, B2B interesting, because like to Chris's main point here, we're all like passionate about event marketing generally. Right. So that might only appeal to a few thousand people in the country. Right. But to those people, they're going to be, well, this is the podcast for me, or this, so that the content. So I would extend that to how you strategize on your live streams and video and that kind of thing. But I would generally start with just my take on that question would be, if you're doing like a live stream or a live from, I would probably just start with 1 per day max, or the first time you go to a show, just do 1. Do it well, and you can always add later. It's
right,
like,
but you're capturing all that content,
right?
And then and then you're able to, as both of you guys are saying, is repurpose that. So one thing that we've talked about on the show in the past, with kind of with regards to capturing that content, and Team Hamlin certainly has banged the drum on this, is like the most expensive video that you make is the first one, and then everything else after that, the dollar cost averaging goes down dramatically, right? So if you're bringing in a team, then let's make the maximum out of that. But one other thing, so as marketers who are managing budgets, you've got your event budget, you got your trade show budget, but then there's other buckets that live within the corporation, right, that you can potentially tap into. Like, hey guys, we're going to go ahead and create all this content from this event. We can use it in so many different ways. Can it be a sales training? Can it be something that shows up obviously on social? Can it be something that turns into a blog article that lives on the website, right? So are there ways to maybe kind of tap into those other budgets that are around, surrounding just the event budget, that you can leverage to, hey, I can get double, the crew. Now I can get 2 camera guys instead of just 1, to kind of leverage that. So look around within your, greater org and ask those questions. Let all those different groups, sales and the folks in charge of, social and ads and so forth, let them all know what you're doing, and see if they've got available budget to kind of bolster yours, so you can do an even better job.
Oh, such a great point.
Yeah, no, I would spin that around, because most companies that I work with don't think of like sort of the cost of creating content or time. But if you have like a demo that you spend a lot of time on, or video, or if you have presentations like product theaters or breakout sessions that you're doing, that you spend a lot of time and effort to create this great presentation, well, don't just leave it for one time at the event. For example, some of the best virtual events that I've done with companies are, okay, they did 4 or 5 presentations at an in-person conference. We take the best one, and within that month, we leverage the fact that it was at the event, the most popular one, and then we do a virtual event on it. Sometimes we'll get more people to see, even within that, within 30 days, we get more viewers or people to attend based on the virtual content than we did at the event, which is pretty exciting. But you've already, the sunk cost in terms of creating that content.
Yeah.
And I would say so that's part of the repurposing that Nick alluded to, that we have 101 ways of doing that. But that's an easy way of, if you already have this great content, well, don't just show it once at the show.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times at the shows, you'll see these cool videos that people have done. Well, you could make that part of your virtual event. It doesn't have to be the whole thing, but it can be, or customer, presentations or case studies that are done there. You can also then, Chris, one thing I've seen, we've done it directly, is when you have an AV crew at your event recording something, then if it's more of a presentation format, like let's say you get 3 customers on a panel sessions are awesome, both in person as well as, virtually. And so you could take that video and just run that as a virtual event, that same video. And then, hopefully you can get all the panels there and they do a Q&A, but sometimes it's, you take the panel and you just leverage that video as a virtual event. So I would start to think about ways that you can repurpose and leverage the content that you're already creating in an event in other media.
I really like the point, if I may, Chris, like what you had brought up. And I think it all ties together. What Bob just finished saying is it's so important to get into like whatever quarterly cadence your marketing colleagues are having or sales colleagues, because you can pick up those opportunities. Product marketing wants more customer stories. Sales needs more referenceable accounts or whatever. And then you can raise your hand saying, if I could get a film crew at the event, I can get you, I pledge an SLA of 5 customer stories I'll come back with. I'll get 3 or 4 committed referenceable accounts from our target accounts that will be there or something like that. Oh, okay. Well, what's that going to take? Well, I need some of your budget there. And also another point that I've just learned over the years from past sponsorships I've been a part of with companies is if you're really smart, get other companies to underwrite what you're doing. So if maybe the product marketing team isn't going to kick in budget internally, is there somebody else, a strategic partner, something that integrates with what you do or whatever, who wants to pay for the photo booth or underwrite the MC or the panel discussion you're going to do? I've paid for that. I've been paid for that. There's a trade show we tried to get in on. We were too late to get a good booth, but somebody else got it, and we got in with their photo booth. So we sponsored the photo booth, and I could meet all the prospects that were coming their way through that. So there's just a lot of ways to team up and rent out your space or rent somebody else's piece of what they have.
Yeah, it's a good way to leverage that and extend and get help, covering those costs. So get some great folks weighing in. So Lana agrees, content is king. Repurpose, everything, every opportunity. Sarah,
repurposing is queen.
Yeah,
content is king. Repurposing is queen.
Nice. There you go. Sarah mentioned, the stage is literally set like it should be captured. So very true on that.
One thing here, this is fantastic.
I just wanted to say before we go, so this is a really good segue, and I'll screw it up by putting this piece in the middle. But the idea of, you've created the content during the show. Let's say it's a 3 or 4 day event. You've got opportunities every day, every night to promote that. So using the idea of using geofencing for anybody who's in that kind of, 3-mile radius around the convention center, and just make sure if you're going to do a little bit of a paid spend, you can like hyper target, everybody who's likely at the event. And again, they're going on their phones at lunch breaks, after they're relaxing in their hotel room, they're probably on Facebook or Instagram or, or LinkedIn or whatever. So make sure you're showing up in those places. And again, your hard costs are sunk into the creation of the content that you're using anyways. So why not, get as much traction from it as possible.
And Chris, you can do that. How there's usually that dead time between setup and actual people at your booth, right? So you can use that time to create that little video as part of your ad that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And that's not it doesn't have to be very complicated. You can plan it ahead of time, but that's a great use of sort of time and being able to present something. Oh, wait, they're here at the show already, and I'm seeing that. So that's a great idea.
Yep.
And Lana mentioned that she's interviewed, attendees, and I've actually seen, and we've kind of hit on that a little bit. I've seen clients of ours have had their customers come in and do the presentations as well, right? So you're involving everybody who's whether it's a customer or an attendee, like you involve them in the process and make them feel like they're at home, in your space, and you're racking up the points big time.
Yeah, I'm getting fired up about that, Chris. Like, just work with like Blue Hive or something, create like a real cozy little nook or something like that, between two ferns style or something, where people like make it.
We can even get Zach Galifianakis to come and join us.
Make it feel special there. And to Lana's point, it's almost like which is going to work better every time. This is why you want to have a digital capture or streaming component always, is because you're either going to say, tell me what your problems are, or tell the audience at home who's listening what your problems are, what the trends are. Like that, they're going to give a better, more forthcoming like answer there
Right.
to when they know they're
It's
presenting.
not going to come off as a salesy pitch.
That's it.
Right.
So that's
All right.
better.
Let's pivot after the event. So we hit the before,
Oh,
we hit the
we can't
during.
just pat ourselves on the back and say we had a great show.
Oh,
We
no,
actually got to go follow up and sell some stuff
Oh,
because
okay.
the
All
company
right.
just dropped $250,000 and we better, make the
No.
ROI happen.
But we're
So,
also
yes.
exhausted. We just pulled it off, you know?
Yeah.
Ugh.
Sorry, the last night of the show, I went out and stayed out way too late at the bar. Now I'm completely in unfunctional.
Dope.
But we got to go home. We got to go back to work. We got to make the investment worthwhile. Nick, to you back on that end. So after the event, we've done all the things, right? We've promoted before the show. We've shown up. We've brought the crew in. We've, at the very least, we've had somebody who owned the capture. Even on an iPhone is better than nothing. Get your little DJR camera or whatever. Make sure and do that capture. Now we're post event. How do virtual events? How does this digital aspect lend itself to helping us with the follow through?
Yeah. Well, I was like joking, commiserating that this is the force you have to fight, right? You're like, I think I just did my job. The event, the live conference is over. I'm exhausted. I'm hungover. Like, what? There's more to be done. Like, can't somebody else take over? But I've often said everything we just did there was to create the tidal wave. And now we are surfing at the top. We are at the top of the wave. We have to now surf it. Like everything we were doing is for this moment that Chris has just brought us to, which is we just knew where everybody was. They all just got the same message. They were in the same place. What do we do with that? And there are some standard things that I'm sure people who are listening would do. Yes, have drip campaigns and emails and so on. But I think there's some finesse that I've been studying and learning and trying in the last couple of years, which is, once again, you heard me talk about it, bring the attendees into it. So anybody you had met there or so on, yes, we are going to do our own show about recaps, and we're going to do a video or some live show about that. But why not use this as an excuse to go, hey, we're going to be doing a show in a couple of days or whatever. Do you want to chime in on a recap? Or we're doing a recap post and we met you and we thought what you were thinking was so interesting. Can we incorporate that? Can we make you famous? Can we build that into the video or the live webinar recap we're going to do? Do you want to be on it with us, perhaps, if you felt that would be appropriate? But try to bring in not just yourselves to do some sort of a recap thing, which I think is table stakes these days, but make sure you can bring in the actual attendees that you met as well as a nurturing strategy. Anytime I can co-create with somebody instead of trying to sell them is better.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that, when you're as an exhibitor, we're on site, we're having all these conversations. There's certain ones that are going to stand out, right? Because and maybe it's not that what they said was a unique thought specifically, but it summed up everything that you're hearing. I talked to an awful lot of CMOs in your industry or whatever, and by and large, 60% of them across the board said kind of what you said, but you said it better, right? Here's where we're having problem. Here's where the pain points are. How can you guys, help us through that? So I love the idea of bringing that customer or that hopefully future customer or that attendee back into and give them the voice, and that talk about making them feel special, but also, again, I think the ripple effect on that is that other potential clients look at them and go, they're just like us. Like they're not trying to sell us stuff. They're solving problems. I have those same problems.
Yes. And I'll pile on a couple more thoughts that came to mind as you were saying that, Chris, before we tag Bob in here. But many of us have tried tactics and plays at these in-person conferences, such as there's going to be a giveaway or there's some sort of conference specific special discount or whatever. Oftentimes it's like, we're going to announce that at the end of this conference, which is when everybody's completely exhausted. Most people have flown home early and so on. Like, what does that do for us? Really? I think to talk about how we can make more of an experience out of what happens post and more of like an event about what happens post is to announce the giveaway winners afterwards on an event itself. So now they're at their booth, they're back at the booth. We're going to announce this a week after today on live in front of everybody, or we'll recognize you, or you'll receive the benefit, or you'll get the thing, or you get to talk, or whatever the benefit is. And then also that's a good excuse to tell people this is your last chance. If you were at the trade show, or we're offering this around the trade show to anybody, whether you're at the booth or not, if you're qualified, there's 3 days left to get. And this is also a reason why we're telling you all it's so special. We're extending the discount. We normally never do this, but we're extending the discount to everybody. And we want to talk about that. And you want to pitch that a little bit on an event, like just all a good excuse to have there be some timely gathering to recognize the winners, to make a final pitch for this great offer and open it up to everybody else who saw you at the pre-event and they couldn't make it, and they saw your live thing when they're there and they felt like they were included. Now you can even include them in the giveaway opportunity, the discount opportunity. But that's, I wrap a show around that for sure.
That's awesome. I love that. Bob, you want to kind of add to that, or anything in particular?
Bob would help put on the show. I just have the idea for the show. I don't know how to
I don't actually do the hard work. I just have other people do
it. I would say, I think you, as much as I would say there's much more build up to the show. And then you have to remember there's kind of a half-life of interest after the show. So to Nick's point, I would do that follow up. Let's say the show ends, this week. Well, but next Thursday, that's when you're like, let's say a virtual event is, right? So you give people a couple of days to get back into the office and to get back to work. You're not going to do it the Monday morning afterwards where their hair's on fire. Sure. So that would be the contextual, like the example that I used with you, Chris, earlier was, okay, so let's say you get 1,000 names from the event. 100 of them, you're like, okay, well, we're already engaged with those folks, prospects or customers. So those we give to sales. These 900 other folks, I don't know. So let's do like a mid-funnel, some sort of virtual event the week after, and bring our like best speakers and best presentations that are we already just road tested them at the event. And then the other thing you can do is, and that event I would do exclusively for folks that were at the show. I wouldn't invite anybody else. But within 30 days of the event, I would then take that same concept and ideally do something like a panel session with the best 3 presentations. And to Nick's point, well, it could be one of them could be a customer presentation. Another could be like an external thought leader, analyst, KOL, whatever, whoever the talking heads are in your industry, right? And then the other one might be like a product or service leader or your CEO or whatever. So if you follow those couple steps, that's good, but recognize that, well, if you're just sending that post-show email, like we visited our booth, are you interested in our product, and you're sending that for the next 6 weeks, that's probably not the best strategy.
Yeah, and I love creating kind of that, it's another touch point, another step in that drip campaign, kind of a ABM play. Where we're reaching out to the folks who were there, so they're special. And then we're taking that same content that we've already gotten, basically, and road tested, and then now we roll it out to the rest of the potential, audience. And we mentioned this earlier, right? The content that we've created at that show, we're going to use that to promote the next show, right? So there's the kind of the tie-in that becomes that loop. I would say, we work with a lot of different exhibitors. Most of them have programs, right? They do a dozen shows a year, maybe more. So there's always something on the horizon. And how do we take and leverage what we've just, kind of captured and use that to kind of not only push interest and make the sales and generate revenue from that event, but then promote the next thing.
Well, especially as in that kind of case, I imagine the shows aren't going to be in the same city, right? So you can leverage that the geography you were talking about.
Slightly different audiences moving around, different geography.
Right. We missed you in Atlanta, but I realize you're up in Seattle. We're going to be in Portland, Oregon, in a couple of weeks or a couple of months.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think this is something that like Bob and I have really bonded over as we've gotten to know each other and collaborated on some projects this year, is that it's not. Well, I think what him and I believe is that it's not just one show. It's a year-long show. It's following the journey of this team of people at this organization as they go talk about it here on the internet, and then they go to Chicago and they're talking to people in Chicago about it. Now they're back on the internet talking about how Chicago went, and now we're going to Texas and we're following them to Texas. Like, it's just a journey, and we're building.
It's like a snowball.
Yeah, like why shouldn't we be thinking about the person we met in Chicago wanting to follow us to Texas mentally, at least, following our drip of content? and how we took that same message and spun it a little bit or evolved it a little bit or weaved in the takeaways from the people in Austin and stuff like that. It's all one big machine.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Right.
It feel that way.
The flywheel is creating the flywheel.
That's it.
Hey, before we, fully wrap up, I was just looking at our notes here. One other thing that I wanted to mention, we kind of alluded to, like, what is an event? Well, it can be so many things. We've kind of been focusing on an in-person, corporate event or a trade show per se. But roadshow strategy, one other thing that's, kind of dangling out there is going out there and
You're speaking my language. That's
micro
how
events,
that started.
right? Okay.
That started.
All right. So Bob, take it
Yeah.
from there. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Okay. So an example, but leveraging off of your big, like one of your big conferences per year, a lot of times you'll do a dinner event where your CEO speaks or you're bringing an outside speaker. So just imagine that, okay, so we got people flying into this one location. We did this dinner event. Well, that could be a virtual event. Obviously, you want to promote the fact that there was this exclusive dinner event for 25 people on social and digital and everything. That's good. But you can take that, if that works for you, if you get a return on investment on that, you can take that on the road into different cities, whether it's paired with other conferences that are happening or separate. So in terms of these experiences, like what you were saying, Chris, it's like, well, the in-person experience, because of all this AI and digital and social stuff, we're actually seeking more in-person experiences. So that's an opportunity that I see a lot of marketers talking about. But the ones that are actually executing on it are doing very well with those. And you could do, 6, 8 of those a year, strategic cities. If the UK is a big market, do once a year in London, that kind of thing. But again, where content is king and repurposing is queen, that sort of intimate experience that you create, take that out as a roadshow and also do that virtually if you can.
Yeah, I think Bob nailed really the core of how to merge with an in-person roadshow. My just 2 cents, again, the MC in me is like, how can we make this feel like it's some sort of a competition? There's some sort of something that's building here as we go from each city and we meet different people and we get them on panels, we get them to interact and win challenges, demo and try stuff out, show off, be a case study or whatever. How can we start to aggregate that so that we could build anticipation that as we get to the final city or something like that, we're going to bring everybody back and virtually to talk about, at the bare minimum, right? Let's say there's no contest at all, there's no final trophy at all, but there's simply the aggregate of all the takeaways from each city. You get a representative from maybe each geo or something comes into a panel at the end. But what I'd like to encourage people to do, and why I started my own business here this year, is just to take creative swings, the type of swings that I couldn't get the permission slip for at other companies. When they were just a little bit too staid and too static. Let's make this into an award show, and we can recognize the best people from Austin, the best people from Chicago. Like, we're talking about selling software and stuff like here, right, guys? Like, a lot of these things you can get these people to interact with and around your product, around your company, your brand, long after you've left that city. And why not? That's all I'm saying. Just bring them back at the end. Yeah. Build some anticipation that at the end of all this roadshow, there's going to be a big wrap up. There's going to be a big reveal, a big recap, a big giveaway or something. Why not? It's leaving interest and opportunity on the table.
Yeah, no, love that. And then you get I love the idea of the cross pollination of, of all the cities and kind of creating that aggregate. It's like we learned a different little golden nugget in every one of those stops. So here we are on the last stop in New York, or Boston, of course.
Yes.
Which always, Boston should be the final destination. Boston. And that's where that's where you wrap it all up and put a bow on it.
Yeah, exactly.
Homecoming. Awesome. Fantastic. Well, guys, we are already at 48-minute mark here on the Toolbox. We try to keep it something, shy of an hour. So I'm going to start the wrap up process here, but this has been a fantastic conversation. For you folks who are maybe hearing this after the fact, we're going to be on all of your favorite podcast platforms. So Spotify and Apple and all that stuff. You can also catch us in video, 3 really handsome gentlemen. You can see us here on LinkedIn or on YouTube as well. So lots of ways to kind of rewatch this. A lot of writer downer moments, as it were, in here. Guys, I'm going to throw this out to both of you. 1 or 2 kind of key takeaways whether we've already talked about it before and you want to recap it, or something that we maybe didn't get to. But Nick, on your end, kind of leave us with, one or two, nuggets that people kind of put into action right away.
Yeah, and great question, of course. And I've been thinking about this for several months. Like, what is my ethos as a person who's really a showman at heart, loves to rally that whole team, get everybody together, bring forces together across different cities and geos and stuff like that. That's my bag. What I love about these types of virtual events and shows that they make that possible. My charge to all of you, my key takeaway is, if you want high performance, put on a performance. Get your best presenters and communicators to stretch themselves, give them a little structure, a little enablement, a little empowerment to go for it. And you have to entertain if you want people to engage. Yes, you have to tell them the stats and the facts and the features and the benefits, but they're not even going to listen to that if you don't give them a little bit of showmanship. There's some lights, there's some sounds, some music. We've been talking about it this whole hour, but make sure that you are putting on a performance. That's how you get high performance. You got to entertain people if you want to engage.
Nice. That's a great takeaway. And I know a lot of people are uncomfortable with that or the thought of it. So either you ask your leadership or someone within the org who's comfortable with it to stretch a little bit, or you bring in somebody from the outside to either coach you up or to do that, right? So
something to that. It's a thought.
Something. Okay. All right, Bob, how about you? What's your golden nugget takeaway here for us?
Well, I'm happy that we didn't talk about AI much, which is good.
Good for us.
Everybody else is talking about it. We're not talking about it.
Right. But I think the opportunity, and if you are where we kind of started the conversation was, if you're primary thinking of one media or one type of event, I would say think of it more, as a wheel or one strategy, and introduce each of these, whether it's like the next time you're doing an event, how do we incorporate in-person event? How do we incorporate virtual, and how do we incorporate video with that? And then on the flip side, when I work with folks that are more just focused on, okay, we're in our virtual event silo, I'm like, okay, well, we just created this great video. Well, how are we repurposing that? I know there's going to be a show next week. Can we show this great customer story there? So think about how all these things can work together. And I would say folks that are spending a lot of time and effort to make the in-person experience great. Well, especially when Nick's talking about capture that energy, the insights, everything you get from there, and try and take that into the video as well as digital event world. So if you start to think of these things as holistically versus sort of siloed, I think those organizations, teams, individuals are going to be more successful moving forward.
Amen.
Nice. And I love the statement. I've heard content is king. I hadn't had the adjunct piece of repurposing is queen. And just one thing that I know we struggle with a little bit, we have these great mailers that we push out. They're physical pieces. They're actual little tiny exhibit crates, and we've been doing them for years. So they're not new to us, but for someone who has not seen them, they are new to them, right? So as a marketer, I think we get bored with our own our activations or our campaigns fairly often. We always want to be changing stuff up, but for those who haven't seen it, like, it's new to them, right? So when we're repurposing, like, don't be afraid, because we're constantly pushing it out, finding new audiences, finding different places that people or we also remember that it takes like 20 touch points now to get somebody to actually understand what we're saying or who we are. So, that's got to be part of that. And again, if repurposing is queen, don't be afraid to, take that content and use it in as many different ways as possible.
Heck yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So how do we get more Nick Sal and Bob Hanson in our lives? This is for you guys out there that I know you're thinking it. I'm going to ask it for you. So Nick, how do people find you? Bob, how do people find you?
Yes, I'm available on LinkedIn. I've been pushing myself to make sure I'm posting once a week. So you'll hopefully see me out there. Sometimes I try to do funny stuff, serious stuff, on the road, like, autobiographical stuff, but just trying to eat my own dog food as sort of the front end content centric focus around events and show the way. So follow me on LinkedIn and hopefully you like what I put out.
Awesome.
Yeah, I would say LinkedIn as well. And then just to kind of close the loop there, where we all met through Exit 5. Coming up, there's the big Exit 5 Drive conference in Vermont. So I'll be up there in September, in the flesh, in real life. The virtual guy does travel.
IRL.
Yeah.
All right, and we're doing an IRL get together here for all of you Boston people. We'll put something together.
Well, hopefully we'll see you at the Red Sox parade, Chris. You're optimistic.
There we go. Duck boats, baby. Bring them on. Bring them on.
One final plug that just reminded me, Bob, was I'm speaking at Inbound in September in San Francisco. So if anybody's in San Francisco who's going to Inbound, you want to meet up, I'll also be there speaking.
There you go. All right, going back to your HubSpot roots.
Have to. Love
Have
it.
to do
there.
it.
Yeah.
Awesome, guys. This has been tremendous. I really appreciate your time and all of the, you guys brought your A game. We had some great stuff to talk about. We're just scratching the surface, guys. So there's a lot more out there. If you get more questions, feel free to reach out to any and all of us. We'd love to help and answer more questions and so forth. So from the Toolbox, from the Event Marketers Toolbox, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your day, rest of your week, rest of the weekend, and enjoy. And we'll see you guys around. Keep on, and happy eventing, everybody. Cheers. Take care.
Cheers.